you have your own scale of fees, like other professions, bar association and institution of supervised by your ministry, true or false? Some of things are properly.
Ghana Institute of Engineering, Ghana Institute of Surveyors. And so they often come up with a scale of fees. It's often a composite figure. The last one, the information I have, the last time it was revised was on 6 December 2021. And so there's a range. It is, you could almost say it is regulated by the ministry. The range of the categories of professionals are the project director, principal consultant, senior consultant, consultant, and junior consultant. Now, every firm, and depending on the nature of the job, will have a certain category of personnel that are part of it. And so, based on obviously your seniority, there will by all means be maybe one senior person in a typical job environment, one senior consulting environment, one senior person with some junior personnel. Whichever way, the composite figure is 16.5%. Now, this makes up, it's not just an architect, it is most of the time. There will be an architect, there will be a civil structure engineer, there will be a quantity surveyor, there will be an electrical engineer, there will be a mechanical engineer. So it is a composite figure for a team of professionals. Thank you.
Then you've chopped, Honorable.
Mr. Chairman, should I respond to that?
No, Honorable Nominee.
Chairman, I'll go to my second sector. You know, together we passed the Real Estate Act, and there is VAT on real estate, which they believe is hindering on the sector's growth. Have you taken a look at it, and are you going to assist with a review of the real estate tax?
So the nitty-gritties of the elements would be a bit foreign to me, but what I know is that typically there will be VAT taxed on in whatever and are used in the construction. So supposing on that progressive adding on, the VAT is charged on the various materials that are being procured. If you don't take care, the end product will be obviously a finally finished house. If there's VAT paid on that also, you would think that it is kind of double, it's almost like double taxation. But like I said, I'm not an expert in taxation, and myself to confer, and I believe that there's nothing that cannot be discussed, or whether I can say negotiated or otherwise. I'm sure that our challenges with whatever regime that there is, it can be discussed. Thank you.
Chairman, my last question, cost. And your sister, a respected MP, your other sibling behind you, Gabriella, is very vocal on social media and have dominated. Your sister was foreign minister, trade minister. Now, what is this thing with the half-caste people in Utusenya? And that, I wish you well. Gizzy, God bless.
Above all, that is your political secret.
Is it?
So, Honorable Haji Aladi Ayamba.
Thank you, Chairman. My sister, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
When Honorable Patrick Yabuama was talking about you, your family, and all those stories, I sat and I was laughing deep in my mind. Honestly, being a politician myself, I have never admired and followed anybody thinking of supporting or help sister. And for that matter, my big sister, that is how we call I call her. Early, when the late President, His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings was around, I just embraced her, and she continuously encouraged me until even when I came up as a national officer and became an MP, and she gave me all the support. So I'm not surprised, and I will never be surprised if you continue even to be there 10 times, and I hope so. Yes, it's natural. You can do it, and you are doing it. It's a simple thing. You are gifted, so it's not about a half caste or a quarter caste or a full caste. However, my sister, your profession is a profession that whenever I look at it, even looking at people outside, and you get been able to do it, because I think it's mostly predominantly a male instituted area. I don't know, when you were in school and decided to take up these courses or this line of study, how many of you were in that class that were women or girls who are...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable, we were 40 in the class, and there were 10 women and 30 men. That class of 1990, we entered KNUST in 1990. It was actually, at first they used to take very small classes, 18, 20. They wouldn't go beyond 22. So ours was like the largest jump they had ever taken, even in quantum. Now the university takes much larger classes, but they started with us. It is a male-dominated area. Yes, in fact, a bit of it maybe stems from upbringing. As you know, we are 4 sisters. Our father did not bring us up to be soft. Let me use the word independent. We are quite independent, and so he also did not withhold advice. If this is what you think you want to do, then go ahead and do it. And being a woman does not deter you from doing it. And actually, working with men is also quite pleasant. And all 10 of us in my class, if I recall, we are all practicing in one way or the other. We are all practicing. Thank you.
My second question, Chairman, I might not know much about your area, but I know mostly some of the work there. Sometimes you either see or you hear how buildings collapse because maybe they haven't followed the rules and regulations binding the putting up of such structures. What will you do to support your minister to ensure that people adhere to the rules and regulations binding certain structures, not only the materials that are used, but where those structures are actually also put up? What will you do to support your minister so that they will adhere to it? We don't have those problems.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Generally, in our built environment, there are specifications and standards that must be adhered to. Specifications and standards in the choice of materials, specifications and standards in the processes of construction, and it also has a lot to do with quality, workmanship, and the like, and then supervision. Many cases of buildings collapsing, I'm sure the investigative reports will say there was either maybe substandard materials or substandard construction or no supervision. Most of the time, many of these challenges, but I would wish that, and I'll take this opportunity to really talk about professionalism in the construction industry. because it's very important. You see, when you think about it, you're putting up maybe your house. That may be your biggest investment in your lifetime. And so you must use the right professionals and have the right supervision, using the right materials and the specifications, so that at least your investments are secured. I remember, and I think that we should just use them.
Me, my sister, housing is a very big problem when it comes to most of our institutions. And I know our party especially have tried as much as we can to put up housing for some institutions, but there are many more. Yesterday, mentioned how no school will be put up without housing for teachers. Excellent. What will you do to suggest, or how will you suggest to your men, especially in the rural areas, or sent to the rural areas? Because it's not an issue of just constructing the houses for those who will go there and then stay maybe for some years and go. But there might be people who are also resident there but do not have the funds to put up their own structures. So it becomes difficult for them. They want to leave. In your own way, what will you suggest to your minister so that you can have such facilities, the houses for people to be able to afford?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My minister and I, we've already had such discussions, particularly about a district housing scheme, because housing must be decentralized for it to be effectively used. And so, as the housing for teachers, it is a fantastic idea. Many times, housing is the connector between, let me give you an example. That is their concern, lack of accommodation. You may find only about 3 teachers. And so the school in the rural area and the school in the urban area, they will take the same exams. But effective teaching may be less over there because of some of these social problems around them. And so for having the plan to have accommodation around schools is brilliant. And I'll support my minister in any way possible to make sure that happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my sister, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give the floor to Honorable Hassan.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable nominee, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I know you are not the substantive minister, but my question is about your plans to eliminate the perennial water shortages in urban areas, particularly Tamale, and most urban areas in the northern regions.
Online. And per my briefing with the staff in the ministry, there are pipeline projects and there are also those that are ongoing. So I believe an assessment is already being done. And what my minister plans to do is to look at the country as a countrywide exercise and to see illegal mining affecting particularly the head streams of rivers that are actually supplying water systems. So it is a multi-sectorial endeavor, works and housing, lands and forestry, and all the other agencies, even local government and all the other agencies and departments that will need to come together to make sure that water supply is at least as satisfactory, even if it's not every day, at least it comes a bit more frequently than it does. And so those plans are actually being discussed as we speak. Thank you.
Very well. My second question has to do with a collaboration between your ministry and that of local government. I had an experience where the local government, I live in Adenta, and there was some property coming out in front of my house, which happened to be the middle of the road. I reported it to the local government, the MDA, and when they came to the side, they actually wrote on the building, remove. A few weeks to that, I saw them building a wall around the building that is written on it, remove. I returned to the assembly, and nobody had time to listen to me. And that housing regulates such things. But we can't get to workers' housing because you have decentralized or relegated or delegated that thing to MDAs. Then there's a need that the two ministries works together in order to streamline and ensure that people follow or abide by the law. With these viewers, I wish you well.
Thank you very much. I believe that is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nominee. I'll give the floor to Vincent Asafua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And let me say a big congratulations to my dear sister. I think on the floor of Parliament, the Ghanaian people to know that indeed you are a good legislator. However, I have 3 questions for you. It is only to give you an opportunity to tell the people of Ghana what your capacity and capability to the Ghanaian people. My first question is on the National Rent Assistance Scheme. I think that the NDC had that in their manifesto. In fact, the NDC promised that they are going to introduce a national assistance rent scheme where low interest are going to be given to persons who may be interested to take up such a facility. The previous government introduced a national rental assistance scheme, which was to provide rent advances for low to middle income persons in the country. Currently, it is being piloted. Since you were nominated as a deputy minister designate, have you received any briefing from your ministry? And would you want to go back to the system of the national rent assistance scheme?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe with my minister, we would, because really, as a deputy minister, I'm there to assist. So it is likely that we would have to look at the scheme. And if there are any adjustments and to make it, to improve it, we're likely to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's a smart answer anyway. But my second question to you is on Saglemi housing project. It was a project that was heavily criticized by your party. Heavily criticized by your party because, in your estimation, the NPP government failed to operationalize the housing project. My question to you is, what do you and your minister seek to do to operationalize the Saglemi housing project?
That were given yesterday by the president. Yes, he has asked that we take a look at the Saglemi housing project again. Typically, when you've left a project for that long, you'd obviously have to go and do an assessment of what it takes to complete it again, because there have been heavy thefts on that site. And so even though they were completed, some large amount of completed structures, they've been vandalized. And so it would mean changing a lot of things within literally each house and housing unit. So the first thing is to do the assessment, and then costing, obviously, and then see how it's going to be funded and then completed. Then moving forward, I think, again, with my minister and other sectors, we'll have to see how it's going to be occupied. You know, when you have a housing project, sometimes you have an anchor. An anchor in the sense that that zone is an industrial enclave. Right after the Saglemi, there's a Dawa industrial zone. Imagine if the industrial zone was working about 70% capacity, with all the industries and factories that were supposed to have been put up, assuming all things being equal. That Saglemi housing project would have been taken up even for middle management accommodation, at least. In the same way, if you recall, there was a plan to move the airport from Kotaka to in that area. So I believe, again, the discussion, it is on the front burner, and we'll take the necessary action that we have to. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up question to that. Respectfully, nominee, I may want to give you another opportunity if you want to convince the Ghanaian people your commitment to this project. Can we hold you to your words that in the next 4 years, that is if His Excellency the President leaves you at that ministry, the Saglemi project is going to be completed? Do we have your commitment to that effect?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, because yesterday the President mentioned this, and when he says it, he will do it. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Chairman, my last question. Issues of flood is very critical in our country, especially the lives perished through flood. It's quite devastating if you have to be affected with such an issue. I want to find out what your party and your government would want to do, especially because the previous government was attacked, for lack of better words, for failing to deal with issues of flooding. What do you intend to do differently in terms of dealing with flooding? Thank you.
In Greater Accra or the country?
You are the Deputy Minister for Ghana. And so for the country, but specifically you can zoom into Greater Accra because that is where we are largely or mostly hit when issues of flood hits us. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, there were already efforts made with the Garrett project and otherwise to be able to improve their flooding mechanisms, the anti-flooding mechanisms in Greater Accra. That is mainly around the Odo Basin, and the Odo is one out of nine basins in the Greater Accra. But moving forward, you see, there are so many built-up areas in the country. Nowadays, when we even build our houses, we don't want to even leave much grass unless you have a larger space. You pave it, and the water always finds its level. It will run off somewhere, and it will have to be collected somewhere. So I think that we have to have a relook and a rethink at some of these things that we actually do. When they say little drops of water make a mighty ocean, it is a similar thing. Little interventions that everybody paves their little square, putting it together as a composite. There's too much runoff. And so water is not, and then also there's been a lot of building in areas which should have been reserved. For example, the wetlands, they act as a natural basin to hold excessive water and then slowly percolate into the ground. Even the wetlands are being built on. Places that could have been what they call reserve, they call them retention ponds or retention areas, green areas that will allow water to just percolate down into the soil, fill in the aquifer, and also at least refresh the water table, and then be able to absorb excess water. We are also building in all those areas. And it's not only in Accra, it's happening in lots of urban areas. The rural areas are not as affected as the urban areas are, but the excessive buildup is causing problems. Together with my minister, we'll do the best that we can, but having mechanisms to control flooding is a bit of a handicap because this is heavy capital expenditure. And so sometimes you may not be able to get the funding that you need to be able to solve all the problems, but at least there are some that you can solve, and certain attitudes and maybe revision of certain practices that we all do, particularly building up everything. I think that together we can solve it and do something about the flooding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think that you may want to look at what the Ministry of Local Government is doing with Garrett, as you rightly said. There's a lot to learn from there. In the absence of any other question, I want to say congratulations to you for your nomination, and I wish you the very best of luck. Thank you.
It's now the turn of Honorable Sami Auku.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable nominee, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask one of the most important questions for young people and the middle class, and that is the issue of paying rent advance. It is an issue not because there's a lack of an existing law or act, but it's the lack of enforcement of that act. Honorable nominee, what would be the recommendation to your minister in ensuring that this Rent Act is complied with? What would be your recommendation to your minister in how to handle landlords and landladies, especially in this subject matter? It is so prevalent in the urban centers of Africa.
Together with my minister, the best way to handle this would be to have a review, a discussion, a dialogue around the whole rent control and rent management system. Now, it is best, because of the various stakeholders involved, that the rent control department is one key one. It is decentralized and is found in many districts across the country. But they still always have issues with rent, and it can really bring quite a number of conflicts around. So yes, the discussion will be had. We are very committed to solving as many problems relating to our ministry as we can. And that's assurance I will give you from my minister. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, a follow-up to that question. I want your honest and personal opinion on this matter, not a stakeholder engagement. Thank you.
The law says the rent should not be collected for more than 6 months. But just as you said, with the challenge of, there is a challenge of enforcement of that. But again, it will come down to dialogue with stakeholders. Because with time, if, for example, I'm building and I've been charging 3 years advance, 2 years, 3 years advance, and all of a sudden I'm being told that I must comply with the law and come down to 6 months. People feel that they have made an investment in housing. They feel that they have made an investment and they want returns. And some people, actually, it is their business to build and rent out for 2-3 years. And they get some bulk money and they go and start the next one. And yes, I also appreciate that the young people, young middle class, anybody who actually needs a place, who is starting life, will need a place to stay. I can only say that the approach of dialogue is the way to go. Thank you.
Very well. Honorable Chair, my second question, if I may. Honorable nominee, I take you to the university campuses and the tertiary institutions, and in the specific area of housing for tertiary and university students. It's always a delicate and a tricky matter. What will be your personal position on this matter as far as landlords in these environments, especially in the housing and accommodation for tertiary students and lands closer to these institutions? The landlords always want to demand a commercial rate, and the students always want the affordability. It is also clear that many of our tertiary institutions opinion in this particular matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So university accommodation, in our time, we were not as densely populated as they are now. And so, yes, there's been a very huge demand on university accommodation because the numbers that are taken to universities every year, campuses. Again, Honorable Sami Auku, I'll take you to the back. There are so many universities now, and to be fair, it is somebody's investment. They've put a lot of money into it, and they will expect returns. But they can also not be exorbitantly charging rents and rates as and when they please. And supply issue also. If there's not enough, and this is what is there, what do you expect the person to be charging? That is why sometimes the dialogue, that discussion could be had. But at some points, it has to be a dialogue, starting with that. Thank you.
Honorable Chair.
Mr. Chair, university housing has been. Because in every urban area, there may be different nuances. So, for example, Accra may be more expensive than Tamale, for example, because it's like real estate. The rates are not the same. Again, a dialogue would have to happen. And then we take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. My last question. And I admire your loyalty to your country as well. Can you share with me the words in the National Pledge?
Thereby I recite it. I promise on my honor to be faithful and loyal to Ghana, my motherland. But Ghana is actually my fatherland. I pledge myself to the service of Ghana with all my strength and with all my heart. I promise to uphold in high esteem a heritage won for us through the blood and toil of our fathers. And I pledge myself in all things to uphold and defend the good name of Ghana. So help me God.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
I will give the floor to Honorable Jerry Shai.
Honorable, congratulations to you.
Thank you, Honorable.
I just want to find out if I perused your did a lot more on PPP. I think in Washington D.C. in 2014, 2016 thereabout. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So, what would be your suggestion to your minister with reference to PPP arrangements where we have land in some areas and you have some public or civil servants living on those lands? The lands are very huge. Your minister will take them up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is actually ongoing, but a few observations, and that's ongoing under the ministry already, and that is helping in giving housing to public servants, especially senior public servants. There are some ongoing in Rich and others. Now, my observation is that the negotiations could be looked at again. I've seen a case where same 4 or 5. You must look at the value of the land, and then the development the next development will be commensurate to the value of the land, and again based on negotiations. So, like I said, that is already ongoing in the ministry, and I'm sure the minister has taken a look at some of those already. I'm aware that he's done that, and together we will discuss and move forward, because there will continuously be the need for some public housing. Thank you. Used to, I don't have it anymore.
What do you want to share why you don't have it anymore?
Mr. Chairman, subject to taking up the parliamentary, subject to deciding to become a member of parliament, I had to give up my British citizenship. So I renounced it in October 2019, before I stood the first term. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Please address the chair and go ahead and ask your questions. Please, please.
Honorable Chair, just want to find out from the nominee. I know the usual language is that you are going to support the minister. So there are about 16, I'm not too sure if I'm right on that, housing projects ongoing in Ghana. And most of them are, so I just can remember some that which I've noted: Asokori Mampong, the Amasaman Affordable Housing Project, the Gbechile Affordable Housing Project, the John Ajekum Kufo Affordable Housing Project, Kufuridia Old Estate Affordable Housing Project, Bon Affordable Housing Project, Lahugu Affordable Housing Project, Legacy Court Affordable Housing Project, Mauli Court Affordable Housing Project, a lot of them. And I have not exhausted the list, but I'm sure you have an idea about what I'm talking about. Would you recommend to your minister that these projects are sustained and completed, and how do you ensure that the projects stay within the budget, a month or 30 days, and therefore we need to review? So first of all, how do we sustain that, and how do we ensure that the budget is not changed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The budget not changing is not set in stone. It may be a bit difficult because the prices of building materials change all the time. So, for example, when the price for cement is X plus something, and realistically, you cannot call a contractor to go and complete a project when the prices of the materials have changed. They will not even take it up. And so, but at some point you can lock in certain pricing that if you complete within this time, but then you must also make sure that you pay within that time, because most likely a contractor may go and take loans to complete it. And to be fair to him, he's also running a business. So in such a case, you realize that you've taken the loans, the government has not paid. And that is a story of a lot of uncompleted projects that are actually around the country. Not only housing projects, it cuts across. So I think there must be a point when you decide that we'll try and finish this, make this money available, and get competent contractors who also will be able to execute the work. And then you know that by then, at least you'll be able to finish them segment by segment, because sometimes you can be doing so many things at the same time and then you're spreading yourself thin. So the reality is that prices change. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a follow-up on that. So are we going to have any assurances from you as you go into support, so that, you know, the key word is affordable, and they are normally for a certain group of people, say civil servants, public servants, but when we finish building these projects, normally they end up going to the rich and famous like Gabriela. Are we going to ensure that these properties will go to the proper public servants and civil servants who can afford?
Oh, Mr. Chair, there will come a time when the civil servants will even see that finding their own one plot somewhere and putting up their own house may even be more affordable for them. But sometimes the locations of the housing, public housing, is what matters, because you will not be able to get certain locations at certain price. So, I I think that, Mr. Chairman, I'm a bit lost with the last part of his question.
Just ensuring that the people who are meant to have this project are going to have the project. I mean, I think you have actually dealt with it, so.
But let me just add something. You see, the tag of affordable, sometimes it sounds a bit derogatory. So somebody will say, I don't like this affordable housing. It is just a reduction of the specifications. So for example, instead of using a porcelain tile on the floor, you decide to use a ceramic tile, which will be cheaper. Or you not use a tile at all and you just leave it as a smooth finish. So the paint will be the same. Maybe instead of getting a Jaguar sanitary ware, that brand, you go for a lower brand. You know, instead of maybe having sliding windows, you put louvers. So it's basically just a drop of the specifications that, you know, give it that, and then trying to make it a bit more affordable in totality. Thank you.
Chair, last question. Yes, the two.
Honorable Jerry, your first question was on the PPP arrangement. The second one was on the British passport, and then the residual this, as if I am not keeping record.
Chair,
you ask your three questions.
You have.
Yes.
You have. If Chair is going to allow, but if not, that is okay.
So if you want my leave to ask that question,
Chair, you are right on point.
Your last question.
No, I thought that was the last, and it wasn't.
Very well. You may ask the question.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think today is Friday, Chair. Will let us. This is just about my constituency. We have problems with storm drains. Constituencies, I'm sure, apart from Agbawe, you may find that in Botiano, and I think it's because of the topography of the area. Do you have any plans? Because we talk about dredging, and now even dredging, largely you won't have the district assemblies doing so. You won't have the money for desilting as well. I'm more excited seeing you there because that's going to be a way to solve these problems. Are you going to assure us that you would find ways to solve these problems, especially on the construction of storm drains and then dredging and desilting? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, there are some existing projects, some McCarthy Hill and Wija, if I recall. I think they are still under construction. I think that's in your constituency. Or that's what you believe that it will enter your constituency. But the general thing, like I talked about, is the runoff, the surface runoff. That I think that can be tackled locally. And let us make whether I could say announcements or whatever, encourage people to plant a bit more, have a bit more green space, or just earth that will be able to absorb the water, than always having hard surfaces that allow for runoff, which then becomes flooding if it cannot be contained or percolated down. So you still have a bit of the problem, but I believe that step by step it will be solved. Thank you.
All right, Chair, thank you very much. I wish her very well. I'm very happy. That's one of the appointments I'm happy about.
Very much, Honorable.
Thank you. I would give the floor to Honorable Mahama Shaibu.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Chair.
A very well-deserved nomination. Let's do the affordability bit. And that word, affordable housing, has been used over the years. In your view, given the current economic situation, income levels of middle income, basic civil servants cannot, the people they are meant for can't afford it.
So maybe, Mr. Chair, it's time to apply some marketing techniques to it and just sell it as an estate, give it a very nice name. Meanwhile, you know that the specifications are much lower than what may be high end. Because the affordable tag sounds a bit not demeaning, but it seems to have a bit of a negative connotation. And somebody I don't want to go that way, it's affordable housing. But the house is the house. and it's shelter. And sometimes what you really need is just a roof over your head. But obviously, with our tastes and preferences, we all have different wants, and then it moves from the point of a need to a want. So I think that my minister would be very of affordability. Meanwhile, it may still be affordable. But really in Ghana, what is affordable? What building materials are affordable these days? That's a challenge. Thank you.
Housing for security. Would you want to prioritize your housing units for security services? I know other public service workers would want to have, but if you have our military and police people living, renting houses in units with to prioritize on security bit before the others.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The decentralized district housing can cater for some of that. It is just about the allocation. So some may be teachers, some may be health personnel, some may be security personnel. But really, the police are posted all across the country. And sometimes when you see the accommodation they live in, left to them alone, they will not be living in that. But maybe it's either a duty post or otherwise. And it's not only them, immigration officers are also posted around the country. I think generally it's important that we look at housing for the various groups. And again, the district housing that my minister has looked at is like
the nominee. I know you will deliver, and I wish you very well in your new role.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
I'll give the floor to the Deputy Ranking, Honorable Patricia Piaget.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'd like to take this opportunity about your capacity to perform in the position of a Deputy Minister for the Works and Housing Unit. But I believe that there are some few challenges that we need to speak to. And the challenges, I see your work as one of monitoring, one to ensure effective implementation, and the progress. Honorable nominee, do you think your ministry has been very efficient in addressing all these challenges, and if not, in of these challenges?
It all boils down to execution and implementation of the programs and the projects that the ministry has chosen to do. Mr. Chair, I would give the fullest support that I can to my minister. I'm a technical person by training. My minister is management, and I think it's a perfect blend of expertise that the two of us will be able to make sure that our plans and programs are make the necessary progress that we want to. But to be fair, a lot of sources. With this day and age, in this day and age of climate change, I believe that we can also even tap into some of those climate funds to be able to support some of the programs that actually go on over there. And so I believe that there will be a blend of all that. We have actually discussed, because we've had some brainstorming sessions on how we're going to move the ministry forward. And I believe that will be, there are better times ahead. Thank you.
Thanks for the assurance. Honorable nominee, Mr. Chair, I'd like to find out the challenges that pertains in my constituency, Asokwa constituency, is something that runs across most constituencies. And the challenge is that In Kumasi in particular, we have a number of rivers running through the constituencies, which is creating a big problem for road construction. It's creating a problem for road construction because the rivers are not, or I would call it the drains are not well lined, and as a result, the water moves in any direction, and most of the time, it affects the road construction within those areas. Be given the opportunity to manage the works and housing. Do I get your assurance that in supporting your minister to deliver on your mandate, are you going to take a specific interest in this problem of ensuring that our drains are well lined, and if possible, there will be the need to attract the right funding support? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. As I went to university in Kumasi, Kumasi has changed a lot. When we were on University Campus, KNUST Campus, as soon as it rained, the water would vanish. There was no issues of flooding or anything like that. But now it has changed, and it's affected the whole of Kumasi itself. But this is a close collaboration with the Ministry of Roads and Highways and Ghana Hydrological Authority. And so we just have to make sure that the collaboration is much closer and well connected to be able to solve some of these problems. As for drains, some of them are earth drains. And then frequently you see that they get an excavator to clear out the pathways. Some of those are done, because not every drain can actually be concrete, built that way. But some of them, sometimes when maybe the frequency of usage is much more, or much more heavier usage, then you have to have the proper storm drains constructed there. The collaboration will be done. Thank you.
Correct me if I didn't hear right. I quite remember that the President, His Excellency, Honorable John Dramani Mahama, on a district-based level. And I believe that going by your manifesto, these district-based housing projects that is being introduced is also to address the housing needs of women, vulnerable women, single women who cannot afford to develop their own houses. And I'm wondering, listening to your issues about whether a house is affordable or it's not affordable, I think in all this, if we want to look at affordability of a house, the issue will be what kind of material are you using to construct. Honorable, what will you propose to support your minister to ensure that the new housing projects will incorporate designs that address the specific needs of women and children, such as adequate sanitation facilities, safety features, and spaces conducive to small-scale economic activities, and still be affordable? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's a tall one, because usually housing is unisex. It's not specifically for women or for men. There are certain basic things that should be in it, except that sometimes our communities lack certain things, especially sanitary facilities. People tend to build their houses, their private houses, chamber and hall, for example, in certain communities, and then they will not have washroom facilities attached to it. It's a matter of cost sometimes, but the district housing would show and exhibit a certain kind of, let's say, best practice in housing. And I'm sure that will be picked up in a lot of our communities by the artisans, the masons, and all those who build, to know that this is the way we think we want to go. Sometimes, let me give an example. You go to a rural community and they have public toilets. A lot of people, left to them alone, they wouldn't mind having one in their house. So they don't have to walk to a public sanitary facility. But we want to implement. They would see the difference in what should be ideal and what people could also aspire to.
Thank you. Honorable nominee, do you think that collaboration between the ministry, your ministry, and financial institutions is crucial to provide the tailored financial products that address the unique challenges women face in accessing housing finance? Do you think?
Please, can you see the question again?
Hello? Yes. Do you think that your ministry can collaborate with the a financial institution to ensure that you can provide tailored financial products that can address the unique challenges women face in accessing housing finance?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that can be done. Banks and financial institutions have products. They also prepare products for the markets and different kinds of loans that they give, housing loans, trade and others. And so they may even be able to prepare a package or a product with a fair, affordable mortgage for that. But most of the time, looking at the kind of interest rates that we have, interest rate regimes that we have, it is difficult to necessarily come down to certain levels that we would prefer and we would like to see, and make sure that women will be able to be part of them. But not all women are vulnerable. Ghanaian women are very hardworking, and you'll be surprised that sometimes you ask them to even find 10,000 and they can produce it for you, whereby maybe somebody else can. So it's a matter of having the right products for them to assess.
They are vulnerable, but majority of women are. And majority of women are single mothers. Even if within the single mothers zone, we still have very hard-working ones who can afford everything. But I thought you were addressing a specific need of ensuring that women who are vulnerable and are not in the capacity to build their own houses, there is a window where you want to construct it. That's why you've made it district specific. So that is my challenge here. That is it ever possible to achieve that and ensure that women who have such challenges, their needs will be addressed? That is my simplest.
Thank you, Chair. It can be looked into. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I don't think I have any doubt at all of your capacity. You are a technical person, and it's just for us to converse and then know. Congratulations.
Thank you, Madam.
Honorable nominee, let me add my voice in congratulating you I know you are good. You can perform the task in supporting your minister to deliver at your sector.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the confidence.
I wish you a very good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let me acknowledge your revered guests. Nai Kwame Tewia the fourth, Bambohini of Ewutu Traditional Council, Reverend Daniel Kobina Aban, Head Pastor, Restoration Hour Assemblies of God, Mr. Kalala Egan Nyamiche, Ewutu Senior West Constituency Vice Chairman, NDC, Ibrahim Babangida, linguist to Ewutu Senior District Chief Imam, Mr. Gizella Akushika Tetteh-Agbotui, Sister of the Nominee and Central Regional Communication Officer, Mr. George Tete, Uncle of the Nominee, Professor Richard Kofi Asiedu, Central Regional Chairman, NDC, Nanyi Kobina Abaka, Kuntihini, Senior Traditional Council, Mr. Bright Atukwe, Council of Elders, Ewutu Senior West Constituency, Mr. Samson Abe Ama, former DCE of Ewutu Senior District, Dr. Oscar Aban, Constituency Member, Mr. Cyril Alex Gokal, Brand Manager of the Nominee, Mr. Joseph Mensah Abaka, Central Regional Deputy Organizer, NDC, Mr. Francis Ohipini, Constituency Member, Mrs. Matilda Sokpo, Constituency Women Organizer, Ewutu Senior West, NDC, and Madam Agatha Sachi Asabil, Family Member. You are all welcome. Honorable Nominee, you hear from the committee, you are hereby discharged.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Honorable members, we'll take a short break. Lunch break and come back at 3. 3. 3 o'clock. It is a long break. 1 hour is short.